Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to today's Royal Afternoon Edition, the 2 p.m. news on 88.4 Royal FM on the 7th day of the month of January 2026. My name is Mapala Zita. The headlines. Cameroon has lost an estimated 254 billion francs CFA due to the post-electoral tensions that affected businesses, and we will have an economist view on this loss.
First, it is essential to guarantee security and the free movement of goods, especially in the most affected regions, such as Littoral, Adamawa, the Northwest, and the Southwest. Then, emergency fiscal measures, tax relief, temporary moratoriums on certain obligations.
Out of the country, Burkina Faso say a plot to kill military leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been thwarted. And in sports, Cameroon takes on host Morocco this Friday, January the 9th, 2026. And this afternoon, we connect with Royal FM's makeshift studio in Rabat through Marrakesh. Ladies and gentlemen, those were the headlines. Good afternoon. You are welcome to the 2 p.m. news on Royal FM. We begin with politics. The Cameroon Democratic Front Party, the CDF, has seized the Electoral Council and the Constitutional Council, requesting that the tax compliance certificate be annulled. The CDF made this request via a communique signed by the party's national president, Denis Emilien Atangana. Given that this appeal comes at a time when the country prepares to hold the municipal and legislative elections, our reporter Evans Williams Njobati hooked up with the concerned and compiled the following for the 2 p.m.
Noticing several irregularities in the previous elections organized by Elecam, where aspiring candidates were asked to provide eligible, pushed the CDF and the CDF party of Denis Emilien Atangana to request the annulment of the tax compliance certificate (TTC).
Lors des élections présidentielles et les élections régionales,
during the presidential and regional elections in Cameroon, candidates were required to submit a tax assessment or non-assessment certificate and a tax compliance certificate, which is an illegal document not mentioned anywhere in the electoral code. Even still, it has become clear that obtaining these certificates presents enormous practical difficulties.
De conformité fiscale, il y a d'énormes difficultés pratiques.
More to this, the politician believes both institutions dispose of all powers to rectify these wrongs.
Nous pensons que le Conseil électoral,
the Electoral and Constitutional Councils are the bodies authorized to order elections Cameroon to strictly adhere to what is written in the Electoral Code. The Electoral Code, with regard to the elections of members of the National Assembly, stipulates in Article 165 that the declaration of candidacy must be accompanied, among others, by a certificate of tax and non-taxation.
And insisting on the complications of acquiring the TCC form, Denis Emilien Atangana wishes a rapid intervention before the holding of the municipal and legislative elections this year, as he concludes.
Regarding municipal election, Article 182 stipulates that the declaration of candidacy for the elections of municipal council must be accompanied, amongst others, by a tax certificate or a certificate of non-taxation. It is therefore unclear where the tax compliance certificate comes from, as this is not mentioned in the Electoral Code.
As it stands, the Constitutional Council of Cameroon, as mandated by the Electoral Code, has 10 days of the petition being filed for legislative elections and 40 days for municipal elections.
In more political news, the president of the Liberators Party, Professor Olivier Billy, has tabled an appeal before the Constitutional Council requesting that the council see keenly into the various administrative members' blockages issued by the President of the Republic. And for more understanding on this request, Evans Williams Njobati got in contact with Professor Olivier Billy for this except.
We have a situation in which the head of state has not been able to replace them since 2019. This situation, let's say, blockage, also concerned legislative and the judiciary power. And this produces a lot of mishappiness in the general people who are working in the public service. So Constitutional Council is that institution in charge of examining this kind of issue. They had to receive that request from us. So the liberators are requesting, let's say, want the Constitutional Council to make the constatation of the situation of inability of the head of state to carry out his functions. And this constatation should lead to an impeachment. That's what we are actually asking to the Constitutional Council of Cameroon to do, so as to give to the country a new impetus, so that the country can go to a situation of revitalization, redynamization of the whole state.
And talking about politics, political instability has come at a heavy price for Cameroon's economy. The Cameroon Business Association indicates that in less than a month, the post-electoral tension drained businesses, resulting in a loss estimated at 254 billion francs CFA, with 5 regions being targeted. Now, as these figures sink in, attention is shifted towards the government. Just how can the latter protect the economy and prevent similar losses in the future? Our reporter Jeffrey Tachum got the reaction of an expert in economy and compiled this report.
Economists warn the government of the need to act as fast as possible to restore economic confidence. Jamo Haiwang is a research analyst at the Cameroon Economic Policy Institute.
First, it is essential to guarantee security and the free movement of goods, especially in the most affected regions, such as Littoral, Adamawa, the Northwest, and the Southwest. Then, emergency fiscal measures, tax relief, temporary moratoriums on certain obligations, and deferred deadlines can ease companies' cash flow pressures and help prevent bankruptcies.
Meanwhile, ensuring that democratic principles be acknowledged by our leaders by making it easier to express freedom to protest is a way forward for economists like Henry Kwam.
We have to ensure that we give citizens the opportunity to also protest. Currently, in order for you to protest, you have to get an authorization from the Ministry of Territorial Administration, and that's fine. But we should make it simpler for people to go out and hold gatherings and protest something they disagree with. That's what happens in a well-functioning democracy. It's important that people understand what those processes are at the Ministry of Territorial Administration, but also for citizens to be responsible.
Moreover, the government should build a favorable business climate through ways such as easy access to credit and support vulnerable small businesses, among others.
The government must also facilitate access to credit, support vulnerable SMEs, and rebuild damaged infrastructure while drawing lessons from the crisis. This means strengthening political dialogue to prevent future disruptions, improving the resilience of value chain, and better integrating economic actors to national governance to preserve social and economic stability.
And after losing more than 250 billion CFA francs, it's high time for Cameroon public authorities to take action for such financial drain to be controlled in the future. Henry Kwam once again.
There are reforms in the finance law that actually benefit businesses. There's a tax incentive for businesses which says that if you hire someone who is less than 35 years old, don't pay any taxes on their salary, but you pay their social security contribution. And so those are little incentives that businesses should really be taking advantage of to create more employment and prosperity. And hopefully that would contribute to positive economic development, but also ensure that over time we are building and developing responsible citizens of upstanding.
In conclusion, political stability is not just a matter of governance, but also a vitality for the survival of businesses, the protection of jobs, and resilience of the national economy.
Jeffrey Tachum in the report. And still to come in this newscast, ladies and gentlemen, we look at the effect of misunderstanding between parents on their children.
There's a place that God has reserved for couple, which is their bedroom, where only two of them meet. They can resolve their misunderstanding, the two of them. They should not get their children into their misunderstanding.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, you are listening to the 2 p.m. news on Royal FM and watching us live on YouTube at Royal FM Cameroon. Let's talk education this time. The Office du Baccalauréat du Cameroon, OBAC, has suspended 47 teachers and 208 examination candidates of the 2025 examination session. The decision was reached during a recent Board of Directors session, which confirmed the suspended individuals were involved in various forms of examination malpractices. Even though this measure has been loaded, experts say there are after effects. Details in this report by Glory Ngange.
Julius Neba is an examiner. He expresses mixed feelings about the information concerning his fellow colleagues and students.
On the positive side of the message, I am happy that we could denounce publicly evil, especially in the education sector, which I think has been eaten by cankerworm. On the negative aspect of it, these are the teachers who are supposed to inculcate good morals in the learner. They have been suspended right up to 47, which is a huge number because of examination malpractice. 208 learners. This is already telling us there's a little number caught. We don't know how many were not caught or how many bribed their way out.
Suspending learners and teachers in the middle of the school year can bring about negative impacts on the educational system as well as the individuals involved. However, being aware of the consequences, the expert emphasizes that the perpetrators should be made to pay for their crimes.
Any teacher caught in this act should not only be suspended, should be seriously sanctioned, so that those that enter through the back door should easily leave through the back door. And in a hierarchy seen covering such teachers who are out to destroy the young minds that are the future of this nation should as well be sanctioned, so that there should be clear sanity in the system.
In order to eliminate this vice from the educational system, Julius Neba proposes the following measures.
We should start by looking at those that are recruited into the system from their past moral records right up to their presence before we can give them posts of responsibility. I think some probation period should be given to them so that we study them before they can even put them. And if you're putting them into this system, they should be helping staff. Moral education and civic education should be taken seriously in all the schools at all levels, and it should be done practically.
It is worth noting that this decision ties with the government's effort to fight widespread fraud and corruption in the educational sector through surveillance of examination exercises spearheaded by the various education ministries in the country.
Still in education, this time with focus on the resumption of classes for the midterm of the 2025-2026 academic year, as the teaching and learning exercise picks up last Monday, January the 5th, more effective measures have been adopted by school administrators to support learners who performed poorly at the end of the first term. In the following excerpt, the pedagogue Wumeyi Bertrand outlines some ways through which these students can be accompanied during this semester. He spoke on the microphone of Glory Ngange.
The second term began on the 5th of January. But of course, technically, the second term begins at the end of November. So by the time the students have already finished writing their exams, the second term begins. That's why when they start in December, they have just a week to go. Then the following week, they start writing their second term exams. But then, for those students who did not perform very well, before going home, they knew, and the teachers had already given them some work to do. In most of the schools, teachers give them some questions on which to work. There's a certain follow-up with students, especially with those students, the Christmas holiday, especially for those students who do not perform very well. It is not a time for them to rest, because as soon as school begins, we go into another exams. Most often, students who do not perform very well, they are treated specially, because following the CBA system, all students are supposed to pass. And for us to make it possible, we have to follow students individually to work on their weaknesses, so much so that when the second term begins, you see an improvement in their performances, and during the third term, there's another significant improvement in their performances, so much so that you might see a child beginning with 7 average and at the end of the year having 12 average, which is not very good, but at least the child must have shown sign of hard work.
We now move to this societal story where in most homes it is common to see couples have misunderstandings. These misunderstandings often lead to a cut in communication between the partners and sometimes even draw the children's attention. As a result, Fringwe Crispin, who is head of Reporters Brigade here at Royal FM, interviewed a sociologist and a marriage counselor on the above issue and now reports.
It is very normal for couples to have misunderstandings, but it is a sign of disrespect when it is done in the presence of children. Ntuungong Valentine.
Parents need to learn conflict resolution management skills such that their conflicts do not escalate or they don't manage them in front of the children. But if it happens that the children live the experience of a couple in a serious dispute, a quarrel, a disagreement, it is important that the parents may either leave the scene or get the children to leave.
But when the atmosphere is calm and conducive, the sociologists attest
the parents need to put those children down and get them to understand that every couple have disagreements. But what is important is that at the end of the day, they agree. And it could be good that if the parents leave the scene, they should come back in each other's arms. This will also teach the children because amongst them, the siblings, they also have disagreements. So it is important to get them to know that for every disagreement, there is need for peace or reconciliation.
Moreover, the expert reveals it is inappropriate for children to interfere when their parents are having disagreements.
If parents manage their issues correctly, children will not even live the experience of their parents quarreling. But now, when they are quarreling, it is very dangerous when children interfere, because if they interfere, it means they will take sides, and the moment children start taking sides in a disagreement between parents, that family is already destroyed. So children have nothing to do except that they are grown-ups. When I mean grown-ups, I mean independent children. Then they may come to help their parents to reconcile them. It's quite a different scenario.
According to the marriage counselor and sociologist, better ways to handle disagreement in marriages involves open communication, active listening, and focusing on the issue, not each other.
Fringwe Crispin equally caught up with Pastor Tita David of the Full Gospel Mission, who attests that God has reserved a place for couples to meet no matter the situation that is their bedroom. Let's listen to Pastor Tita David.
Misunderstandings, first of all, are bound to come. These things, they come to help the couples to know themselves better. It doesn't come for the couples to separate. It comes to help themselves know better. That is the purpose for these things. And I will say that when couples have children, and they have misunderstandings, they shouldn't transfer their misunderstandings to their children. They should not get their children into their misunderstanding. It should be resolved at their personal level. And when they are among themselves, maybe in their bedroom, they can react and do whatever they have to react among themselves. But once they're out and among their children, it should not portray. The children should not take note. They should not extend it to where the children are, because it is going to have a negative impact on the life of the children. There's a place that God has reserved for couple, which is their bedroom, where only two of them meet. They can resolve their misunderstanding there, two of them. Now, when it comes to children interfering, I would rather suggest that children should not get involved, because they may not know to which extent. They may not have also been well matured enough to understand some things when it comes to couples living together. But however, children can also play a great role in bringing parents together when they don't understand themselves. Children can act as a bridge to bring the parents together. They can advise. They can also give counsel.
And to the children, the man of God has this to say.
When they notice that their parents have some misunderstanding, they should not also take side with any of them. They should be in the middle. They should be neutral. Not taking side with their father or taking side with their mother. Yes, they should be neutral. And neutral in the sense that, because when there is a misunderstanding, both parties are wrong. Both parties are involved. There's nobody that is right in 100%. There is something that the woman has done that brought the misunderstanding. There's something that the man too have done, though the contribution may not be 50-50. So in their role of interfering is to bring the mother to realize what she did that was not proper, and to bring the father to realize what he did that was not proper. And then each person can now apologize and reconciliation will take place.
Out of Cameroon, Burkina Faso's government say a plot to kill military leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been thwarted. According to a late-night broadcast by Security Minister Mahamadou Sana, the sophisticated plan had been hatched by Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba, but the Burkinabe intelligence services intercepted the operation in the final hours. Sana added that they had planned to assassinate the head of state, then strike other key institutions, including civilian personalities, further alleging that the plot had been funded by neighboring Ivory Coast. The Beninese army said on Tuesday that it had killed 45 terrorists over a 3-month period of anti-terrorism operations in northern Benin. According to an army memo, the forces neutralized 45 terrorists and arrested 7 suspects who were handed over to the competent judicial authorities between October and December 2025. The Beninese armed forces also said weapons, motorbikes, cans of petrol, and military fatigues were also seized during the multiple clashes with the enemy. Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist groups have often posed security threats in the country's north. Guinea's ex-security chief Claude Pivi, who was convicted of crimes against humanity for a 2009 stadium massacre, has died in custody. According to authorities, Pivi, also known as Copeland, died in a Conakry hospital on Tuesday from complications related to diabetes. He was former colonel and minister in charge of security under Guinea's then dictator Moussa Dadis Camara, and was convicted in absentia in 2024 for his role in a massacre at a stadium in Conakry 15 years earlier. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung say he has asked his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping to play a mediation role as his government seeks to improve relations. In Shanghai today at the start of a 4-day, or rather at the end of a 4-day state visit to China, compensation or some form of return. Beware Brian, our sportsman, has joined me. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Mapalazita.
The Cameroon National Paralympic Committee has officially charted its course for the 2026 sporting season with several ambitious targets on the horizon.
The President Jean-Jacques Dodomo highlighted how these victories served a dual purpose: one achieving sporting excellence and the other driving social inclusion of people with disabilities. The committee also highlighted that the central pillar of the 2025 progress was the establishment of the Cameroon National Paralympic Academy, a body designed to integrate Paralympic values into the Cameroonian society. While looking ahead to 2026, the Board of Directors successfully adopted key documents including the 2025 Activity and Financial Report, the 2026 Action Plan and a Budget, and the discharge granted to the Executive Bureau for the execution of the new budget. The committee also went further to set future priorities, with the main being the acquisition
of the Paralympic period, which is 4 years, and now the Paralympic period, which is 4 years, and now the preparation for the qualification will be gaining momentum. So we need funds, documents that will be gaining momentum. So we need funds, documents that were presented to the members of the board were approved. Mainly the report of the board were approved. Mainly the report of activities, the action plan, the proposed budget. So we are aiming to create our achievements, and we hope that with the support of new donors, we can move forward and get greater results.
You stay with me, Brian. Let's go find out what's latest concerning the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations.
AFCON 2025 Morocco, a special page in the news.
Brian, you say Cameroon now remains the only team from Central Africa left at the knockout stage of the ongoing AFCON.
Following the elimination of the Democratic Republic of Congo by the Desert Foxes of Algeria last night, Cameroon stands as the sole representative from the Central Africa to advance to the AFCON quarterfinals. Gabon and Equatorial Guinea, the other Central African representatives, exited the tournament during the group stage after failing to secure a single point in their 3 group outings. With this, the aspiration of the entire Central Africa region now rests solely on Cameroon, who will face the tournament's host this Friday for a place in the semi-finals of the AFCON. In the last edition of the African Cup of Nations, the Democratic Republic of Congo stood alone as Central Africa's only quarter-finalist, successfully reaching the final 4.
Welcome to Rabat, Morocco, where this Friday starts Prince Moulay Abdullah, who holds what many are calling the final before the final, as Cameroon and Morocco prepare to battle for a spot in the African Cup of Nations 2025 edition. And Morocco prepare to battle for a spot in the African Cup of Nations 2025 finals. The air in Rabat is thick with tension. This isn't just a football match. 5 edition semi-finals. The air in Rabat is thick with tension. This isn't just a football match. It is a coalition of 2 distinct footballing philosophies, the greed of Central Africa emulate versus the technical precision of North African dominance. If history could score goals, Cameroon would already be in the semi-final. Statistically, the indomitable man is the fact that the Atlas Lions have never beaten Cameroon in the final phase of the African Cup of Nations. The 2009 goals. Moroccan fans still remember November 14, 2009. Last time they lost a competitive match on home soil. The opponent that day was Cameroon. The rise of the Atlas Lions, while he lends towards Yaoundé, the present belongs to Rabat. Morocco entered the quarterfinal on an incredible 29 games unbeaten streak under the guidance of Wally Rodriguez. They have become the golden standard of African football, with the star power Brahim Dice in form of his life, scoring 4 consecutive African Cup of Nations matches. Morocco attack is relentless. Morocco has never lost at home in 37 official matches. They are playing for more than a trophy. They are playing for the pride of being the first nation to co-host the 2030 World Cup. Cameroon's strategy under the David Pagou era is that of discipline. We all know that Cameroon arrived at this quarterfinal stage as the underdog, a role they historically relinquished. Coach David Pagou has built a resilient, tactically disciplined squad. Young forward Christian Koufani has emerged as the hero of this tournament, providing that the Hemless spirit is alive in the next generation. Cameroon's path to the quarterfinal was defined by the knockout mentality, coming from behind to beat Mozambique and edging out South Africa 2-1. They have shown that they don't need to dominate possession to win. They just need one moment of Lions intensity. The match presents a fascinating tactical pause. Will Morocco high-pressing golden chain duration finally break the Cameroonian course? Or will the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, the winner, move one step closer to continental glory? The loser heads home with the bitter taste of what if.
Thank you very much, Abel Bella Samari. You, gentlemen and lady, continue to be our eyes and ears out there in Morocco. Now, in the wake of Mozambique,
veteran stars like Elias Pelembe, commonly known as Domiguez, and Ensun Situé, known as the Mixer, have brought their illustrious members' career to a close. The Mozambican Football Federation, FMF, confirmed the retirement in a press release on Tuesday, hailing the players as 3 captains of a generation who have closed a historic chapter for the national team. The trio were pivotal in the Mamba's maiden qualification for the AFCON knockout stage, a significant milestone in the nation's footballing history, although they were eliminated by the Super Eagles of Nigeria. 31-year-old Renildo Mandeva, who recently made history as the first Mozambican player to play in the English Premier League, was a key leader and a reference point for the national team. He represented his farewell as an act of responsibility, passing the baton to the younger players. Eston Suwe, who is 37 passing the baton to the younger players. Eston Suwe, who is 37 years old, was a central figure in the defense and experience in top European leagues, much like Renildo was crucial to the team's structure and performance. 42-year-old Elias Pelembe, on his part, is the team's longest serving captain and one of the oldest players in the entire competition currently in Europe.
AFCON 2025 Morocco, that was a special page in the news.
Let's now welcome Annie Lizette, Ambassador